Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Test Associates podcast, where we explore ideas, innovations, and leaders that are shaping the future of business and technology. This episode is released in collaboration with the AI Awards, which is an excellent global platform for AI leaders and organizations to gain recognition for their groundbreaking innovations in AI. To learn more, please click in the description below. Joining us today is Professor Filip, who is joining us today from Poland, where he is currently teaching at Open Institute of Technology. When it comes to Professor Filip, it's hard to tell whether he has more educational experience in computer science and artificial intelligence. So this episode is going to be an exciting one, so don't miss out on what's coming next. Um, Hello, Professor Filip. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, hello. Thank you for having me.
I think I'm going to give myself some brownie points for pronouncing your last name correctly. I hope I haven't jinxed it. It was correct, right?
It was fine.
Well, yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. So we've got like an exciting lineup of questions in front of us. So my first question to you is, you've often described AI as a part of a wider pattern of technological hype cycles. Why do you think society is so prone to these moments of collective excitement and optimism around new technologies?
Well, I think we could refer to the recent Nobel Prize winner Joel Mocker, who just received the prize in economic sciences and who wrote extensively about why we consider growth and economic innovation and technological innovation as something natural. It was not the case for a majority of human history. We need to understand that many generations of people could live through many centuries without experiencing any significant technological change. But today we think about growth, innovation, and progress as something that is like a law of nature almost. So naturally, we expect that technology will deliver some major and probably positive changes. But at the same time, I think it is important to stress that different societies react differently to new technology. So, for example, if we will look at Western and Northern European societies, they are much more skeptical about AI and other digital technologies. But if we will look at East Asia, like
Hmm.
at China or Japan or South Korea, we will see much more optimism towards
Yeah,
technology.
yeah,
Yeah, and I
interesting.
think that if we want to understand why society is excited about technology, we need to also look at which parts of the society are actually driving this excitement. And we can see very frequently that it is not the majority of population that is preoccupied with new technologies. It is rather business leaders who
Hmm.
think that AI, for example, will innovate and make their businesses more profitable. And it is in their interest then to convince the rest of population we should follow this path. But I don't think that we have this very healthy information environment in which people could make up their mind about AI, especially because there is so much hype around it these days.
Hmm. Yeah, makes sense. I think we're still, do you think that it's more like an exploratory phase for us? So we're just trying out everything possible and we don't really have like any sort of direction in terms of what we should be, actually choosing to move forward with.
uh, AI is this kind of, as sometimes people say, general purpose technology, right? So it could attach itself to so many different fields or areas in our social and economic lives that it seems like a solution to many different problems. Sometimes
Yeah.
people say that AI is just like solution in search of a problem, which is strange because for most of our history, again, we invented things to solve problems that we already had. And
Yeah.
AI is different. We have this almost magical, in some people's mind, technology which should solve issues from healthcare to, let's say, autonomous vehicles to even warfare. And well, if you think about one technology in this sense, you may be I would say, more susceptible to this kind of hype that we are witnessing.
Hmm. Okay, makes sense. All right. So my next question to you is there's a growing discussion about whether the AI market is entering a bubble. So from your perspective, what might be a healthy correction to look at, and what would it mean for the industry and the public in general?
Well, a simple answer would be that this kind of healthy correction would be to have a more realistic valuation of the companies. But the
Hmm.
question is, what does it mean in reality? Because we have this kind of problem with digital technology and also with this system, with digital capitalism, as it is sometimes called, that the speed of new solutions, which arrive almost every week, exceeds our own ability to verify whether they are actually useful as our tools. And when we are still trying to figure out whether the last week's new large language model is actually beneficial for us, we
Hmm.
have new and more advanced tool at our disposal delivered to us. So how can we then determine what is the actual usefulness and value of the technology?
Hmm.
Well, but of course, it will not last like this forever, because at some point, companies that invested heavily in AI will need to report to their shareholders whether those investments actually paid off. And if not, the decision makers in those companies will make decision to change the direction, and therefore the correction sooner or later, but it will come.
Okay. And I think, as you mentioned before itself, like much of the conversation around AI, it seems to be more driven by tech companies and their leaders. So how much of AI's current momentum do you think is shaped by genuine innovation versus powerful narratives and through marketing?
Yeah, I agree that those narratives are very powerful, and this is very unhelpful situation because we live in the world in which it is almost impossible to question this kind of techno-optimistic narrative and not be painted immediately as an enemy of progress.
Mm,
So if technological change is understood like those laws of nature, anyone who is somehow skeptical about it will appear foolish, or maybe someone who is the enemy again of innovation. And it also doesn't help that those Silicon Valley leaders who always attempt at their best impression of Steve Jobs, and they speak in this kind of exaggerated language, and they use superlative adjectives. And
yeah,
every new large language model is like something we have never
the
seen
next big
before.
thing.
Yeah, next big thing. It will change everything. Every tool is disruptive. Everything
Yeah.
will be transformative. So it is very difficult in such an environment to tell what is an actual innovation and what
Hmm.
is just a hype. And
Yeah.
I have one way, actually. Oh, sorry. I have just one way of telling, maybe, or suggesting what could we do if we want to make sure that the innovation that we are witnessing is actually an innovation. And it is not to look at technology itself, but rather look at the societal impact of those
Hmm.
technologies. So if we can see that, for example, AI makes some kind of important innovation in societal sense, improving
Yeah.
people's lives, improving economy of countries, and so on, that would be a clear sign that we are witnessing some actual innovation.
Yeah, 100%. I think what you've just said is so profound because you clearly mentioned before that AI just seems to be a solution for a problem that we're still trying to find. We don't know what exactly the problem it is that it's trying to solve. Um, and yeah, with the awards that we're doing this in collaboration with, this we have been doing this for quite a few years, where essentially people who are sort of having a positive impact on the society and driving the society forward with ethical AI, those are the innovations that probably stand out a lot more than things that are just done for a commercial aspect of it, which obviously comes into play. But yeah, the ethical aspect of it and having that positive impact is so important.
Yeah, I agree, and that is why, coming from background that combines social sciences, philosophy, or ethics with technology, I always try to look at those innovations in this broader sense to maybe define social progress, not in purely technological terms. I think that is very dangerous to just rely on technology and focus on technology when we are trying to improve people's lives.
Yeah, 100%. And coming to the next question, AI has become a tool for both economic and geopolitical competition. How do you see this dynamic shaping in the future development and regulation of AI globally?
It is very difficult question because uh, first we again would need to understand how AI is being perceived in different countries, and I
Mm,
referred already to this difference between different cultures, how they hope that AI will change something for them, and how they try to manage the development of the technology at home. But I think there are several important processes now in place already. The one thing is the very famous case of AI Act, which is this first regulation of AI, which was enacted in the last couple of years in the European Union. And now the EU hopes to somehow extend its global soft power by well, using AI Act as this new Brussels effect, meaning that the regulation that is now only limited to European Union will impact the way AI is regulated elsewhere. It is a sign of uh, another attempt on the European part to influence other regions in the world.
mhm,
Uh, but on the other hand, we see areas in which AI is not regulated at all. And I think these
mhm,
areas are as much important to global competition as those that are regulated. And I'm speaking here mainly about the use of AI in military. This is something that is not yet widely discussed, but I think it is a very important topic of, for example, so-called lethal autonomous weapons. And for uh, maybe obvious reasons from the defense point of view, no major country is interested in regulating developments in this area. So I think that is a challenge because we may have this expanse in terms of using AI by countries seeking to, well, dominate the world, not just in those economic
mm.
in that economic sense, but also in military sense.
Why do you think there's so much resistance in that area then?
Resistance to what exactly, you
Like you
think?
mentioned about the military and
Mhm.
the impact of that. Do you feel like there is more resistance in terms of using AI applications over there, or do you feel like a lot of countries are starting to?
Yeah, so I could probably refer to this research quite a lot. A few months ago, with colleagues at the University of Manchester, we completed a major literature review of studies of public perception of AI across the world. And
Okay.
one topic was, in particular, public perception of AI in this sphere of security or military. And it is very important to know that it changes a lot over time, uh, but majority of people are quite skeptical about the offensive use of AI, but they are maybe more willing to accept the use of AI in defensive manner, meaning that we could accept that our military will use AI to defend us, but we are not sure whether it should be used to attack the enemy. There are
Mm,
several problems people mention. For example, there is no way to attach responsibility for the use of those weapons. And there is this risk, which may sound fantastical, that those systems will become well, too independent, that they will lose control over them. So
Yeah.
whether those fears are actual or fantastic, shaped by popular culture,
Mm.
these are the factors that somehow limit the willingness to adopt those solutions in military sphere.
Yeah, I think it does take us back to the scare where AI is going to take our jobs, AI is going to take over, and all of these
Yeah.
fears that are probably influenced from the movies we watched. Um, but yeah, it does
Yeah,
make sense.
popular culture has a very important role in this. We watch TV shows like Black Mirror, and we are being
Yeah.
scared of technology. I think that it is sometimes, of course, exaggerated, but it is also very helpful, actually, to give us this other way of looking at technology. I think that despite this popular culture trend to describe and show technology as something that could be dangerous, majority of people are quite optimistic about it, nevertheless. So I think we need this kind of counterbalance sometimes to be a
I was
bit more
about to say,
skeptical about it.
yeah, I was about to say, I think with there needs to be like a bit of positive and people who also point out the negatives of it to just balance it all out. Uh, because yeah, if it's all positive, we don't really know where AI is going to take us next, isn't it?
And it is also about exploring possibilities. And that is why we have science fiction, literature, and cinema
Mm,
to explore
yeah,
what could happen. The problem is sometimes that something that was a dystopian vision in literature or film is sometimes taken by, for example, Silicon Valley leaders as inspiration to do something in
new
reality, and that is
technology
quite strange to me.
or new
Yeah,
disruptive
yeah.
technology.
Exactly, as if we really want more and more disruption. I think we sometimes feel that our life
Yeah,
is too unstable already. Why should we seek more disruption?
probably capitalism.
Well, we can always blame capitalism for everything.
Yeah.
The problem is and I quite seriously think about those matters. I think it is very unhelpful to just say it is capitalism. I also say that frequently. It is this new form of digital capitalism that is profit driven and doesn't pay attention to actual people and so on. But if we only understand the problem in terms, oh, it is this capitalist system, we immediately must say, oh, so we cannot resist it because it's this the system we live in. How would you resist the whole system, right? It is
Mm,
very discouraging to think about those things in terms of this big entity like capitalism. I
yeah.
think we need to somehow, if we want to again counterbalance this kind of techno-optimistic one-sided narrative, we need to offer some more nuanced argumentation.
Mm, yeah, 100%. There's just so much more to play than we think, or that we can grasp the understanding of. But in prep for this podcast, I came across this article by MIT, and I think there was a report by MIT, but there was an article published by Fortune, where essentially they mentioned that 95% of Gen AI projects are failing. Do you think that we are actually focusing on the wrong applications of AI, or are these setbacks just part of a necessary learning curve for all of us?
Well, so the problem is that we are living in this period of AI hype, which includes behavior that is sometimes called the bandwagon effect, right? So
Okay.
companies start to use or just claim that they use AI in order to appear innovative, but also
Mm,
because other companies using those tools. Uh, Even if it makes little sense from the point of view of improving their business processes. So we have multiple examples like Google's insistence of giving us this kind of AI generated answer above the search results, which is a feature that we cannot switch off, right? We cannot disable it. But it has
yeah.
little merit, especially if we are aware that those models frequently hallucinate.
Mhm.
I am very skeptical whenever I see this AI generated summary. I always look for some kind of recognizable link to Wikipedia whenever I look for information or some trusted news sources. But it
Yeah.
signals this use of AI that Google is part of this AI revolution, right? Um, Another example, I have been quite annoyed recently by opening a PDF in a Acrobat Reader because it immediately tells me you can use AI to summarize this document, right?
Yeah.
I did not ask for this kind of feature, and it makes my experience with the software worse. So there will certainly be some kind of learning curve, both in terms of companies learning that they way they implement AI doesn't make much sense and doesn't make them more profitable or efficient, but also in terms of customers' negative feedback. So hopefully those companies will listen to the users and they will change the way they are implementing AI for their own sake, for their own benefit.
Hmm. Yeah. And do you think like I have read a few articles, and this was also one of our questions today, where some people they're comparing AI today to the new oil that's driving wealth and influence, which it is, isn't it? What lessons do you think we can learn from our past industrial revolutions to ensure that AI's benefits are shared more evenly?
Mm, I must say that that answer probably could be quite pessimistic because the
Mm,
lessons from past industrial revolutions are not necessarily very positive. Those revolutions always created a group of super wealthy industrialists who used their wealth to influence politics first in order to make sure that they will protect their market position. Frequently,
mm,
they were having this kind of monopolistic position on the market. And second, also to resist any attempt from society to share their wealth. So they were using the influence they had to basically defend their social status. And it is almost always in history that it is a big catastrophe that results in decisions to create a more equal situation. So, for example, in the US, the New Deal social reforms could only happen after the period of Great Depression. And similarly, in other countries, it was only after Second World War when many of those countries implemented some kind of social policies, like in the UK, the creation of NHS and so on. And
mhm,
unfortunately, since 1970s, the ideas for uh, welfare state and building more equal
mhm.
societies have been replaced with this kind of market fundamentalist, or as some people say, neoliberal ideology that is now a part of this digital capitalism that we just spoke about. And if we have a situation, we have those wealthy Silicon Valley figures
Yeah,
basically backing Donald Trump, whose
yeah.
policies are almost exclusively, well, not beneficial for
Mm.
the poorest in society, but for the richest, I struggle to be more optimistic, right? So I think that it is quite possible that over the next couple of years, we will actually witness some more inequality, some more disparity in our societies, and we will have also this kind of division between countries that will benefit from technology because they invent and produce those technologies, and those countries that cannot produce those technologies and will struggle to use them for the benefit of their societies.
I would be very keen to consider the geopolitical
Mhm.
aspect of this as a different podcast itself, because I think there's just so much to dig into that, right? Like you've mentioned how
Yeah.
different countries approach AI very differently and the way they view it. There's so much to uncover over there. Um, but yeah, I think, yeah, that was a great answer, Professor. My next question to you is, in your piece, you highlight that hype often begins in the imagination. How important do you think public perception and media framing are in determining AI's real world direction?
So I could again refer to the study of public perception of AI that I completed with some colleagues several months ago. And we determined that there are several important factors that influence how different groups of society in different countries perceive AI. So first, there are some important cultural factors that we already mentioned. So East Asia is more tech optimistic than the
Mm,
West, and so on. But second, there is also the role of institutions that promote AI in those different countries. So, for example, in China, the government is very techno optimistic, and this translates into not just how society perceives technology, but also how technological companies make decisions and how they are supported by the state. And third, there is this kind of demographic pattern in almost every country where perception was studied. And there is, for example, a difference between genders and age groups. So
mm,
younger people, especially males, are more enthusiastic about AI than women and older people. And
mm,
also, experience with AI and technology matters. People who have more experience are more willing to accept AI. But sometimes we have this kind of paradoxical situation in which people who are more familiar with technology but live in countries that are in general skeptical towards technology will be seeing more dangers related to AI. So, for example, in
yeah,
Scandinavia, the population is quite skeptical about AI. And there is some sense in which people can influence the direction of AI. And I mentioned that we can maybe inform our inform companies that deliver our tools that we are not willing to use those tools if they include AI. And I don't know
mm,
whether it is a very important for those companies necessarily, but it is one way we can maybe try to shape the way AI is being implemented. But in general, I think that there is little organized resistance to the domination of those big tech companies, both in societal terms and in political terms. Politicians in many countries, including the UK, are quite enthusiastic about collaborating with those big tech companies. And if there is no resistance on their part, it is difficult to see how something else than this kind of profit making attitude and ambitions of those companies' leaders will determine AI directions, at least for now.
yeah, yeah, very interesting. And yeah, I'd be very keen to like explore that a little more, with Philip, because we are running out of time.
Sure.
But thank you so much again for being on the podcast today. And yeah, taking some time out and having this conversation with me.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to our future conversations.
100%.